Hey, welcome to the latest video in the series. I just wanted to have this quick intro here. The thing is that the video that I originally recorded was 1.5 hours, almost 2 actually, and that was quite boring just watching me trying to put in screws and so on. So I've cut it a lot and I've given it some new sound, as the sound wasn't that great either. I hope you enjoy. I hope this is what you've been looking for when you started watching this video. And if you like it, please leave a like, subscribe, and you know the drill. So the first thing that I did was to screw in the screws and the standoffs that will hold the ESC and then fit the ESC. Now, in the previous video I mentioned that there are 3 sorts of ESC, but I only mentioned 2 of them. So the first one that I mentioned was the one that is used in, for example, brushless whoops, which is the onboard ESC. That's an ESC built into the flight controller. Then the second one, and I mentioned that one as well, was the 4-in-1. That's the kind of ESC I'm using for this drone. And then there is also the regular ESCs, which is where you have one per motor. Usually you would fit those to the arms instead of to the actual how do you call this? I don't know. If you know, please leave a comment below. So the next thing I did was I screwed in the motors. When you screw in the motors, you have to make sure that the axis of the motors can actually hang free. So it needs to be centered to the hole in your arms. But that is done easily enough on this model. And yeah, the only thing that I had to do here was to actually remove the motor again after screwing it on, because I wanted the heat shrink tube that I'm using on the arms to be on the arms already. And once I had removed the motor, I put on the tube, put on the motors, and yeah, that's where we are now. One thing that's important when looking at those motors is that they're threaded into 2 different ways. The ones where you can see the black nut on top are threaded in a counterclockwise way, while the ones with the servo nut are threaded the regular way, so clockwise. This is due to the motors being supposed to turn into different directions, and if you match the way the nut is tightened to the direction of the motor, that actually makes the nut self-tighten, which means you won't have nuts flying around when trying to fly. The next part is me then soldering the motors to the ESC, and I didn't record that as I needed the space to do the actual soldering. And every tutorial I looked at said that the order in which the cables are doesn't matter, so you can solder the 3 cables of each motor in any order, 1 2 3 3 1 2 that you want to the ESC. The next part is easy enough. It's just putting the FC on, which means to use the soft mount standoffs that are the rubber ones, and then just put it on. One quick side note, on the ESC and on the FC there is a small arrow at the top which shows you in what direction the board should be mounted. And then I came to the most exciting part, which was actually putting power to it. So I plugged in all the peripherals here, still with the original camera that the drone came with. And then I plugged in the smoke stoppers in the hopes that it would save me if I had done something wrong, and then I turned it on. And lucky for me, all lights lit up and no white smoke, which meant everything was good. Happy that well, everything worked as I hoped it would. I started actually putting together the rest of the drone, meaning I removed the stock camera, replaced it with the CADX Turtle 2. I knew I wouldn't have enough space within the drone, but that was made even worse by the standoffs for the VTX missing, as in, well, I was quite happy at the start having so many screws and standoffs, but it turned out that there was only 5 where there should have been 8 of the nylon standoffs. So yeah, I couldn't really mount the VTX there, and I wanted to mount the camera board there anyways. So I used some zip ties, got it all together somehow, zip tied the VTX to the top of the drone outside of the, if you want to call it, encasing, and yeah, that is where this video finishes. I have a photo here from the actual finish, meaning when I had it put it all together, because the video doesn't show that part. And in the next episode, we're then going to go into the software side of the drone, as in how did I set up beta flight and so on to actually get the drone to fly.